reception. Today we're going to be starting some painting work. We are going to Vasily Kandinsky. Let's say that together. Vasily Kandinsky. So we've got a picture of him here. So here is Vasily Kandinsky. Let's find out a bit more about him. He was born a long time ago in 1866 in Moscow, in Russia. Let's find out where that is. So we've got a map here of the whole world. Over here, this is the United Kingdom. Here, that's where we live at the moment. I don't know whether you came from another country in Europe, possibly, but over here, this is the United Kingdom. And here is Moscow in Russia, where Vasily Kandinsky was born. He was a painter. Now we're going to find out a lot more about him in year 2. But today we just need to think about the fact that he was particularly interested in experimenting with colour. He was very excited about colour. He said that he and colour became one, and it made him feel like he could really paint beautifully. Let's have a look at some of his paintings. Wow. Just have a look at some of his colourful, amazing paintings. This one makes me think of something. If I go back to that one, I don't know what it makes you think of. Maybe you could email me and let me know. Wow. So beautiful. Now, these are just some of his pictures. What you need to think about is, what do you notice about his paintings? They're quite unusual, aren't they? What do you notice about his paintings? Tell your partner. If you're in school, tell your partner what you notice. If you're at home, talk to mum and dad if they're available, and tell them what you notice, and ask them what they notice about these paintings. You can pause this video to talk about that. Now then, now that we've had a talk about that, let's just talk together about it for a minute. I think if we have a look back at these pictures, they're not really of anything recognisable, are they? It's not like we're looking at a picture of a house or a picture of a flower. It's mainly shapes and colours. Abstract. That means it represents anything that we want it to. I wonder what it makes you think of. This one makes me think of the planets. It makes me think of looking up into outer space. This one makes me think of music, the movement of the music, or maybe even a ship. I think some of you might have said that. Now this one, I love this one. We're going to come back to that one in a moment. So these abstract wiggly shapes, again, that one looks musical to me, make us think of all sorts of different things. But I think we can all agree that all of his pictures are very bright. Now we're going to be focusing on this one. This is called Squares with Concentric Circles. Okay, so as we can see here, we have a square. We've got lots of squares, haven't we? And inside the squares, what shape have we got here? It's circles. Now, are they perfect circles? They're not really, are they? Maybe this one is almost a perfect circle, but most of them are a bit wiggly. I think we could even call it a squiggly circle or a squircle. So it's a bit like a wiggly circle, almost like a pebble that you might find on the beach. A wiggly circle. I really do love the fact that it is not perfect, because most things about me are not perfect, and I just love the fact that these are drawn in a wiggly squiggly way. Now, if we have a look at these circles, what can we see? Are they all the same colour next to each other? Nope, they're all different, aren't they? So each circle has a contrasting colour next to the one before, because that's what helps us to see the colours. When they're different next to each other, they're contrasting, that means we can see it. Okay, and I love the fact they're so bright. Now we've got one circle, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on the outside, inside the square, they're almost like triangles, and they are coloured in as well, and they are different colours too. Okay, so we need to bear that in mind, because we're going to make something like one of these. Wow!
First of all, we need to lie our material down on the table, and then, if I just adjust this a little bit, then we need to get our box and put it on top. Mum and Dad will need to help you with this part. Then we need to get some tape. If you could use sellotape, I'm going to use gaffer tape. I'm just using a little piece to fold over the edge of the cotton, stick it down, and then if I turn it round, I can stick down the other side. We need to try to, mums and dads, we need to try to pull this quite tight if possible, so that our canvas is nice and flat on the other side. Just keep doing that all the way round. It's a bit like wrapping a present. So we've got our canvas, or if you're not using a piece of material, then you can use paper. Paper is absolutely fine. The thicker the paper, the better. So if you haven't got paper, card would be amazing. Now we also have oil pastels here. If you haven't got oil pastels at home, you could use wax crayons, or even chalks or coloured pencils would also be amazing for drawing our concentric circles inside our square. So I'm going to use a pebble here to draw my wiggly circle in the middle, my squircle, and you can have a go as well. Let's see how we do this. I'm going to put my pebble in the middle. I'm going to get out whichever colour I want to start with. Now I particularly love orange, so I'm going to draw around my pebble in the middle with an orange oil pastel. Now I drew around mine quite a few times because I want it to be nice and thick. So I'm going to go over it again and make it even thicker, because I want my colours to show up really brightly. If your colours look a little bit thin, maybe go over them one more time. We can blow off the bits we don't want. Now then, I'm going to pick a different colour, a contrasting colour. I think I'll pick this dark pink, and I am going to draw another concentric circle around the one I started with, leaving a bit of a gap. And don't forget, it's okay to be wiggly. So dance with me. So now we've drawn our concentric circles. Now it is time for us to paint in between. So obviously we're going to need a paintbrush. Now I am using some inks. If you have a look in my pots here, I've got just some little takeaway tubs and things like that filled with ink. If you don't have ink at home, I know we've got it in school, you can use any kind of paint. Now, because if you're using material, because it's watery, it's going to spread into the material. It's going to be absorbed and spread along. We'll find out about how exciting that is in a minute. If you're using paper, it will also do that a little bit, but maybe not quite as much. Okay, so you don't want to put on too much paint in case it merges in too fast, but you might have some fun experimenting with the colours mixing. Right, so let's just double check. One little thing we need to remember before we start painting: if I dip my brush into my yellow paint and then I want to change my colour for my next circle, and I think I might want to perhaps go into some blue paint, what should I do in between? Can I just go straight, bring my brush from the yellow straight into the blue? No, we can't do that, can we? We need to wash our brush in between. Now, because I'm at home, I don't have a fancy water pot, but I've got a bean tin filled with water. So if I needed to wash my brush, I would tickle the water with my brush until all the paint comes off. Make sure you don't leave any paint, and make sure you don't splash everybody in the house when you are cleaning your brush. Then we need to wipe our brush on the side of whatever our water pot is. And then a good idea before we go into the next colour would be just to dry our brush on a paper towel or a tissue or something like that at home, or even a piece of paper, just so that we have a lovely clean brush. If when you're drying your brush it's not clean, then you need to wash it again. Okay, let's have fun and experiment. If you look closely at mine, you can see how the paint has bled through the barriers that I've drawn of my circles. But I actually like that, because to me that looks a bit more like a wiggly circle like Kandinsky's, and I like the way that, especially in the middle, when it's orange and pink, the colours are blending together. I don't know if you can see how it's blending together there, but I absolutely love that. You will find if you're painting on material that the colours will bleed together in an interesting way, and if your paper's quite wet it will do the same. So that is fun to experiment with. If you want something else to do after you've finished your Kandinsky picture, you could experiment with mixing colours on your paper and just see what happens when you touch those colours next to each other. Another thing you could do is perhaps do another square. If you're using a piece of paper, you could draw lots of squares on the paper like Kandinsky and put lots of concentric circles inside. So don't forget to send me your work and experiment. It's all about finding out what happens when we play with colour and paint. Goodbye, reception.